Alright, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is ceremonial witchcraft time with Corey LeBlanc, all the way from Cornwall, Ontario. Hey, what's going on? So yeah, my daughter's about to come home. I gotta go pick up my other baby daughter again. One out of two boys is gone, I believe. The other one is probably gone as well. I don't really know. Um, Pretty hungry and a little lightheaded there, but I'm gonna try to get some shit out anyways. Uh, so yeah, today let's talk about some, not more cause and effect, but I want to talk about more of progression. So, as everybody knows, the Neophyte, you start off by doing lesser banishing, ritual the pentagram with your middle pillar, and you're supposed to do that every day, ideally twice a day, I'd say. And, that could be both times at your altar, but it depends on the type of person you are. I'd say once at your altar, at very least once at your altar and once in your head. This way you can practice both, and this will help with the meditation. And you're supposed to do a meditation, daily tarot card and all that. Technically, you're not supposed to do much magic, but how many people getting in the field of magic can actually not do magic for 6 months to a year during the Neophyte? Not too many. So, I, following the lead of many others that I've learned from, that I've put on here, that I've told everybody about, suggested doing sigil magic whenever you're doing magic and all that, and even candle magic, writing on the candles, putting your sigil on the candles, so on and so forth. You mix that with, different writings and reprogramming your mind and all that, because, it works good together if you're doing your Neophyte and you're identifying all your programs that you have within you that you need to change, This way, for when you get to the next step, things will come to you easier. I mean, you're always going to be evolving. And the reason that you may not supposed to start this stuff necessarily during the Neophyte is just because, you're probably not grounded, centered, and depolarized enough to realize it. However, if you are steady putting forth a good effort to try to identify your issues, if you're able to do a small portion of that, even if it's the most obvious things, it's not like these huge belief systems you're tearing down, you're just tearing down these small ones. It's still beneficial, I think. It's if you're the type of person that's like, well, I don't have any of those, so I'll just keep doing this for 6 months and then move on to the next. Well, then, yeah, no. You're going to have lots of work to do later, and that's fine. That's part of the program. I'm still realizing things that, things I thought a couple of years ago when I first got into this, and then halfway through the 1.5 year mark, some of those things have fell off completely. That I used to watch things every day, thinking certain things were real, and now I know differently. And who knows if in a couple of years that's going to change again or not. But anyways, so the progression I want to talk about is more of the mind progression on how to not. This is how you don't fuck up your magic, how you don't think about your magic, how you kind of guard the gates of your mind, and how, you only let certain things in, but controlling what you think about and all this, and the setting and forgetting, and, when you do think about things, do it a specific way. Make it a type of ritual, basically, not just like on a whim every once in a while, is what I want to talk about. That kind of progression from, Neophyte to when you maybe start your Zealtor grade, or, maybe after a year and a day, something to that effect is what I kind of want to talk about. And I'll give you examples as long as we go, because if you're doing magic, various magics and all that, well, whenever you first start in the beginning, during your Neophyte, you're gonna want to magic, whatever your circumstances are. Maybe you got into magic because you have financial problems, or it's a health problem, or whatever. So first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna say, well, fuck it, I'm gonna try sigil magic or candle magic, or write down whatever and get some healing done. Which, especially with the healing, is not advisable, because it took me a while to find those videos about the no negative speech, and how the harm none thing, and positive and negative energy, saying you want to send someone positive energy is sending them positive ions, and we're already bombarded with positive ions, so therefore that is not a good thing. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about here, which is, why it's not a good thing to do that, per se. for health magic. But anyway, so you want to get into magic and you start doing things or whatever. So you got a spell on the go for some money and whatever, and maybe you went in a little too big and it's taken a while and you're having trouble not thinking about it. And as you go along, you start finding out some of these rules, like the no negatives. Oh fuck, I used some negatives in my fucking statement of intent, and oh fuck, I'm not letting it go, and I keep thinking about it, and maybe I didn't have the right emotion, and or maybe I didn't use the planetary hour. You're getting all in your head, right? But anyways, and then down the road, the thing ends up happening. You end up getting what you wanted, whatever, whether the money or the healing, or you got rid of a bad habit, or whatever the case is. Great. But then all of a sudden, it comes back. So I'm not going to give you any specific examples, because the example I'm giving now is, I manifested money and was able to stay home. And I went on here and I told people that, I wasn't even supposed to get EI under my circumstances. And EI here in Canada, you're only supposed to get for, I don't know, I forget the amount of time. I think it's like a year at a time, or maybe 12 or 14 or 16 months at a time, or whatever the case was. And I actually had it extended. Like, I've been off, because the thing is, like, I haven't been off for the entire 3 years altogether on EI, but they were during the same physical year, and I got 2 years back to back, actually more like 15 months each time, back to back on EI, which they never noticed. And I came on here and said that, and then it wasn't long after that, because I initially had until about, I want to say, late October or even early October. And after I said it on here, a couple of months later, maybe a month later, I got a call, or we realized, or something changed, and I only had till the end of August. And then so that brought me to 1 week in September. So that's one of the reasons I went back to work as well. I never worried about it, and ended up finding a pretty cool job. And, I had some issues along the way with going back to work. And then I realized a few things after going through a second dark night of the soul of, how maybe we do have to pay back a slavery debt, because maybe we did enslave people. So maybe it's not so much that we're working as slaves to, our oppressors, but maybe it's more we're paying back a debt. And once you realize that, you can get some time off and you can start manifesting what you want. But ultimately, you have to realize, okay, now I'm working for me. I'm going to figure out what I want to do and have fun doing it. And because I got to say, the job I'm doing now, it kicks ass. It's awesome. I go there, and I've only been there for a month, and I'm flying through all the different trainings I've gotten. I've already climbed the ladder a few times, expecting a raise already. It's amazing. It's amazing. They want me to do overtime all the time, and I'm supposed to offer overtime until after your probation period, and I've only been there a month. Probation period is 3 months. But anyways, so I'm killing it. In other words, but yeah. So I had some issues, and I worked that out. But the point I'm trying to say is, because I came on here and I told the magic I did, even though after it already manifested, it came back. And some people say, well, maybe, you're not supposed to talk about magic, because when you get other people's minds in it, it could fuck your shit up. And, well, technically this spell was done, but it was an open-ended thing that, is subject to change, right? Especially with government and unemployment and shit like that. So I'm not going to give specific examples of anything I'm doing here in case that happens. But just on a side note, another reason for that happening, I really believe, is Birch says, when you invoke something, you got to replace it with something, because nature goes to fill the void. And if you don't give it something adequate, possible, or something it can fill that void with, it's going to fill it with the thing you replaced. So basically, I asked for the time off. I got the time off. But during that time off, I never found something to replace me having to go to work every day when that time ran up with something sufficient. Therefore, when it came around, okay, and now it's time for you to go do what you got to do, I didn't put anything in there. I didn't know what I wanted to do yet, right? I'll be honest with you. I'm still looking for this passion, purpose shit that, I want. But I think that's why that mainly happened. All right, let me get my headset back on. My daughter just got home, so I had to go. I thought they were waiting for me to open the door because the door was locked, but the neighbor down the road there, that wasn't there yet. But in his defense, the bus came super early. Bus used to not get here till like 4 o'clock, 3:55, 3:52 on a good day. And it was here at 3:42, so that's pretty different bus drivers, right? But anyways, so that's the progression. Oh, sorry, I wasn't talking about progression. That is I think the main factor of what happened, I don't think it was so much I got people's minds involved, because not that many people listen to my stuff, to be honest. I mean, I'm grateful and thankful, and I love that there are people that listen to my stuff. And I've talked to, I don't know, maybe not 10, but close to 10 people via email, message, YouTube, Instagram. Even I got a donation. Well, got a couple donations now. One I returned to a young kid, but it was very, very sweet. And we've had a few conversations now. I've helped him out a few times, which I really like. But that's besides the point. Yeah, I'm grateful for each and every one of you guys listening or downloading or whatever. As above all, this is important for me to get off my chest, so more information can come in, and I'll go crazy if I keep all this inside. I'll start going around trying to talk to regular people about this stuff if I didn't have this outlet, and it also helps me expand my ideas even more. But I'm getting off topic. So I think that was the main factor for whenever I came on and said, I had this much EI and I shouldn't have got this much EI, and I got it anyways. At first I thought it was due to the fact that I told people about a spell I did, and their minds got involved, and whether it was just jealousy or that's not possible, or they looked into it, or they thought I was a liar. So therefore it got changed because, too many people thought it wasn't accurate, and it got changed, or whatever the case was. But I think it's more of that rule: when you invoke something, you have to, banish something. When you banish something, you have to invoke something. So if I'm banishing my 9-to-5 job, slavery, which is what I would call it back then, right? And what I say with my daughter, well, I got the 10 grand, I got the means, I got the extra car, I got the house, mortgage, all that to work out. Got all those things to work out. Now I got to maintain that mortgage. I got to maintain that car. That 10 grand is gone, right? And there's a good example of, she gave me 10 grand, but if you don't put something in there to fill that void, to get that 10 grand to keep coming back, it's just going to keep going down to zero, down to zero, down to zero, right? And that's why, you have to cast for the ends, not just for the means, not the end. Because, if someone wants $1 million, well, it's better to cast for something that's going to get you to make that kind of money, And yeah, you're not going to be able to just make $1 million within a year. That'd be your outcome, but you can increment and work your way up there. Because if you cast for $1 million, you're probably going to get it, but it's going to be like, the devil telling Adam and Eve, or the snake, I won't say the devil, but, the snake telling Adam and Eve, eat from this fruit, and you're going to be smart as God. You're going to know everything, You're going to be gods. Well, as Frater Xavier likes to point out, well, that happened. That came true. It just didn't happen that fast, depending on how long ago you think that story, if it's true or not, how long ago you think that story is. I mean, right now, that's basically happening within our time. And there's been people that have done it. Just not everybody can do it yet. So it's one of those things. If you cast for $1 million, you're going to get it. But it might not be until, you're older, or you might have to lose 10 family members in some crazy accident to get all that money. God forbid that happening. I don't want that to see that happen to anybody. But so anyways, when you invoke, you must banish. When you banish, you must invoke. Okay. So I think that was the problem, because I never replaced that. And I had time. Nature was giving me time to fill that void with something I wanted. I just couldn't find what I wanted, And on top of that, I was doing magic to continuously up my game, transformation, healing works, a whole bunch of different things, I wasn't focused on that until towards the end, and it was kind of desperate. And even then, I didn't zero in on a target. I just was very vague about, being grateful for having my passion and being able to make money from my passion. So that could be argued by the subconscious saying, well, part of his passion is talking and teaching, which he's technically doing on a very small scale through Spreaker right now. And technically he is getting money for it. So we don't have to do anything. You know what I mean? I can give it out. But so I think that's why that happened. So for that very reason, I won't give any specific results, because like I said, or maybe I haven't said it yet, but my wife has been doing absolutely amazing, okay? She's had these little breakthroughs here and there, and she's seen my magic work, and she's seen her own magic work. Like, she's going to try it and be like, I'm going to do what Corey said, just to shut him the fuck up so when it doesn't work. And every time she's done it, it's worked. Every time she's not thought about something, not stressed about something, thought about something positively, visualize things, or just try not to think about anything, trying to think about the specific situation or whatever the case was, or only focus on this and act as if it was happening or as if it already happened and being grateful for it. Every time I got her to do that, or she did it on her own, she has gotten results. So she's seen it. And for the last couple of weeks, there was a certain situation, like I said, I'm not going to get into because we just got another resolution. And, I did a couple things for it. A few candles to, a certain gods of the week. And I just never thought about it because when it comes to anything financial for me, I don't worry about it one bit. I have absolute faith that it'll all work out for a few reasons. One, I know people generally, people that are selling you a service, whether it's your cell phone, to your fucking property tax, to your mortgage, to your car, to your fucking electricity, to the fucking vet, to whatever, okay? All these people are in to make money. And to give your contract up to a collections agency, they lose money because they end up selling to the collections agency, but they get a lot less for it. And I think depending on what it is, whether it's a big, huge, credit card or car company or cell phone company, they probably get their fucking the cost of the service, at least they just don't get their profit basically, but they get their costs back, whatever it costs to give out the service to you. But if it's a smaller company, not so much. So especially when you deal with smaller companies and smaller peoples and stuff like that, the bigger, there's a very small chance that they're actually going to throw you in a collections agency. They'd rather work with you. Okay, so knowing that, first of all, using that common sense, that line of thinking helps me out huge because, whenever it comes to financial things, not only do I have complete faith and belief in the unseen forces, the gods, divine, and my own energies, my body, my ability, my magic, I have absolute faith in that. But not only that, I know, especially if it's a smaller one, but even the bigger ones, I know it's more work to, they're not going to get their money and they'd rather have their money. So, unless you violated their agreement or went against their contract, too many times, then there's a good chance you're going to be able to work with them no matter what, So, and the other thing is, a lot of that, when that does happen, when you do end up going to collections, either you just don't have the means to pay, or you've started avoiding them and you're not answering them right, and then all of a sudden you get disconnected, you get put in collections. And I've been there, so I'm not judging anybody, I'm not trying to make fun of anybody. This is something I had to learn through hard-ass experience. Like I told everybody, I had a bankruptcy, and this is what I did as a young kid. I just avoided these problems, but I dwelled on it, thinking about it, stressing about it, and then I'll deal with it tomorrow, and I never dealt with it. And then all of a sudden, when I put in the creditors, well, for me, being the agreeable person I was, I didn't call them up, what the fuck, you do this? I was coming with the payment, blah. I didn't do any of that. I just took it because I knew I was wrong. But that will happen 8 times out of 10. Somebody will just avoid it. And then all of a sudden, when they get the collections letter or the warning, they'll either call them freaking out. And, then you got someone on the phone who may or may not be happy that day, who has the power of the company. They're representing that company right there. They have that power to be able to say, you know what, fuck you, you're going in collections for this. Or they have the power to work with you. So if you're going to call and do that, well, what do you think is going to happen? You already have a bad history, and you're calling and yelling at them instead of trying to work with them, So that's the other part of this that I know. The common sense part is, if you call on time, no matter how difficult, no matter how uncomfortable it is, to just say, I got no money, but this is my plan. Can you do this for me? 9 times out of 10, they're going to suggest something, and they might have a different plan that's more in their favor than your favor. And you go along with it. You try to meet halfway. And even when if that new plan doesn't work out, but you give an attempt, you give them something on that day, they normally work with you. So when it comes to financial shit, I have all those backup plans, contingency plans, desperation plans. I'm trying to go A, B, C, and D for plan A, plan B, plan C, backup, contingency, right? But so I know all that. So for financial shit, I don't worry at all. But one of the reasons I got the job, once again, I needed money, obviously. We need money to come in, and I have absolute faith that I could fucking sling spell after spell after spell and bring money in. But doing that, I'm not able to My wife, she won't be at ease because she wasn't a complete believer in this stuff, because for the most part I was going around telling her how to be and not showing her the proof. Now recently I stopped telling her, stopped preaching, listening to her, hear her out, staying silent, doing whole days, silent days basically, and just listening. And on top of that, she's seeing the results. And on top of that, she's seeing my results and all that. So, but, oh, fuck, I forget where I was going with that. I had a good point to go to, too. But anyway, so prior to getting the job, she didn't have any of those. She had some proofs, but not enough to go on, like, okay, there might be something to this, but, he's still pretty new at it. He can't get anything big, or he's not trying. Well, so getting the job, that was part of it, right? To ease her mind. And this way, anything I manifest, any extra money I get, and my bills are paid, this is all mine. I can put it towards whatever the fuck I want, do whatever I want. And truth be told, I haven't been doing any financial, monetary stuff. It's all been transformation, habits, healing, and just furthering my abilities through magic, the whole casting for more wishes kind of thing, basically. But being able to make my manifestation comes faster using that, casting for that ability, casting for different. Anyways, that's how I think. That's how I operate. Instead of just going for something material, or banishing a habit. I will banish the ability to. Anyways, I overthink things, but it can come to my benefit. So anyways, by having this job, I haven't had to do financial magic because I got the job paying for the bills and all that. And there's been some, but anyways, so there's been a situation recently, and my wife asked me to take care of it, handle it, call the person and deal with it, because, she was really trying to not stress out and keep an open mind, and she knows if she deals with this, she may not, so she wasn't able to. I said, oh, absolutely, sure, I appreciate that, and I'll deal with it. So I dealt with it, or so I told her. I hadn't actually dealt with it for a while. I actually just did magic, and then working, and then we got busy, and then things kept happening, and then I never ended up dealing with it. And then she was asking me every day if I dealt with it, and there's a response. I dealt with it, there was a response, and I kept telling her, yeah. Well, I was basically lying to her, and I told her this today, but I kept telling her, yeah, and I kept her positive. So she kept not thinking about it, and if she did, she thought about it positively, and she brushed it off as fast as she could. Okay, and then when it came time for when I had to deal with it, because that person ended up contacting her, she's like, hey, it's weird. You said you blah, 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 blah. This person said this. I'm like, yeah, well, they just contacted me saying this. I'm like, okay, don't worry about it. I'll deal with it. Just tell them I'm about to call them if you have to, or just don't respond. And she ended up not responding, and then I dealt with it and all that. And then we're a couple weeks now, and actually everything how she wanted it to go completely worked out. Everything just worked out for the best. And then I told her today, I'm like, that's funny, because all those times I told you that it was working out and I was working on it and I was talking to so and so, I'm like, I'd never even called him until that one day you got the message. And I'm like, but do you see now how much of a difference it makes when you keep your mind positive and you don't think about how bad all these scenarios could go? Because you're creating those circumstances by doing that. And even if you don't want to think that way, you don't have to, but think of the way of the doctors say stress causes cancer and all that. So let's say if that's bullshit and we just got lucky, well, for this reason, you should, because you can't change the outcome, so you should just not worry about it, because it's going to be what it's going to be. But so, and she really saw the light with all this going on, how she was able to. And so I've been telling her, because over the past few months, she's been kind of like very not worrying about anything. She's trying not to think. Everything that's a stressful circumstance, she would not think about it. Borderline holding it in, what's that called? Repressing it. Borderline repressing it, but not necessarily repressing it, more ignoring it. Like she knows there's there. She knows there's an issue there, but she knows it's not going to help to dwell on it negatively. So what does she do? She changes. I don't know what she does exactly in her head. Like I've told her, banish, reject, deny those thoughts. Okay. I told her how to do that. I don't know if she does that, but she would ask me to deal with it, like this circumstance, or she found a way to get around it or whatever. She'd think it positively and basically ignore it, not repress it. She knows it's there, but ignore it. And this is what I want to talk about today. This mind progression of your mind, because your mind is linked to your magic. Your magic is linked to your mind. You can't do one without the other. Without your mind, you can't do the magic, and without the magic, you can't manifest. Sorry, manifestation has to be done with the mind and the magic. But anyways, so this plays it to cause and effect a little bit, and because when you're in your neophyte grade and you're doing your lesser banishings and all that, though I told everybody what those are good for. It's good for anybody's thoughts and ideas coming at you, that have the potential, whether it's a thought form or it's just like psychic attack or whatever, even if it is spells. This is going to provide protection for you from those things. But more than that, it starts organizing, well, not more than that, but just as important as that, it starts organizing your mind. All these things you've picked up over time that your subconscious has seen over and over again, that through habits or just ideas or whatever, whenever you're in a negative state, and you saw something over and over again, and you thought negative thoughts about that, well, that's still in your subconscious mind somewhere. And so the next time you're in a very similar negative frequency or state, those things are going to start popping up. But when you start doing the banish, reject, deny thing and accepting the good ones, you're basically organizing your subconscious mind in the way of all those things. This is why it seems like you have to keep banishing the same thought over and over again. But really, that's how many times that specific situation, when you were in that specific emotion, happened, how many times you thought about that, how many things you created, thought forms or thoughts or spirits or whatever you want to call it. That's how many of those that are kicking around in your head. So by doing the banish, reject, deny thing, you start organizing that shit. You start getting rid of that shit out of your mind. So it's not, to me anyways, this is how I think about it. It's not that you're specifically having to say over and over and over again to, let's say it's a spirit or a thought form, no, fucking leave me alone, I banish you, I reject you. It's just that there's so many of them in your mind, it's not, maybe I don't know, maybe it's one of those circumstances where there's either a lot of the same thing in your mind, or maybe it is circle, and eventually you have to stay out of that state, one or the other. But I believe that, if you haven't banished, rejected, denied the things from the past, as much as you can stay in a positive state, eventually you're going to become in a negative state. And, sometimes it may not even be your fault. But point is, that's another reason why that exercise is so goddamn important, is for that, the lesser banishing, sorry, is what I was talking about. This is the banish, reject, deny. But the lesser banishing helps cleanse whatever room you're in, and that's why I say I do it multiple places. And especially when you do the ritual in your mind, it's like doing that in your mind, you know what I mean, trying to neutral the shit out, and it's an extension of your mind. But anyways, so what the progression is, when you get to the Zealtor grade, you go to a different one. You do the lesser banishing of the hexagram, or maybe it's the greater ritual of the hexagram. I don't know. I know two versions of it. And from the book Kabbalah, Great Work of Self-Transformation, that's the progression. And the reason for doing this, especially with the planetary ones, it's basically you reduce Saturn's effect on you when you get to Zealtor grade. So Saturn's effect, Saturn is kind of like your karma you have to deal with in this life. Saturn is your limitation, restriction, right? I put a thing on with Edgar Casey's guy, John Van Hocken, talking about going from karma to grace, meaning you get grace from Saturn. Saturn eases up on you. Well, this is what this is designed to do. Not only that, it's designed to slow down the aging process or make you younger. So also super important to get to this next stage. And if you're in your neophyte and you're thinking, holy fuck, really? Well, if you didn't read the book, see, this is why you got to read the fucking book to know these things. I don't like just blurting out these things because people might think I don't read the books and I'm just saying crap. But if I just come out here and spit all the important information out without you getting the context, then you're just going to go to the lesser ritual of the hexagram or the greater ritual of the hexagram instead of doing your lesser banishing, and it's not going to work. It's not going to be correct at all. You're going to fuck yourself right up. Not only that, is you won't understand how to do it. You won't have built up a rapport with all the archangels. You wouldn't have gotten rid of all those because this is the progression, right? So first you have to keep doing your lesser banishing, and even when you do the greater ritual of the hexagram, you're still doing your lesser banishing rituals of the pentagram. You don't stop doing those. You add this ritual onto there. So if you think you're just going to do that, well, okay, you're going to try to get less karma from Saturn, but you're going to have everything else still flying at you, and you're not going to get rid of it. So, but this is why I don't like to speak about the curriculum specifically, because I don't want people skipping ahead or doing things they shouldn't be doing when they're not ready to do it. But so there's two very important reasons why, do your Neophyte and get to the Zealtor grade. But this helps in the process of this progression thing I'm talking about here, because when you can get Saturn, and it's basically all the planetary energies, by reducing Saturn's effect on you, it actually reduces all the planets. This is exactly what it says in the book, like almost word for word is how it's said in the book. Basically, you have to reduce Saturn's effect on you, and by doing that, you lessen all the planetary energies. So, like when Birch says, taking the reins, not just going for the ride, right? You get in sync with nature, and you start just waxing and waning with the moon. And whenever Mercury retrograde comes around, then you're all crazy and shit just happens to you. Well, when you get to the Zealtor grade and you start doing this ritual, because every grade you have, you keep the rituals you did from Neophyte, keep the rituals you do from Zealtor, and you keep going, all right? You keep all these rituals, you just add them on because they all have a specific purpose. But, this is how this is accomplished, I think, doing the curriculum. This is why, I love witchcraft and all that. But if I was just doing my own witchcraft without actually having a guru or teacher, because I guarantee you Birch teaches you something this equivalent in his programs, I would be willing to bet that. But if I was to just study it on my own and watch witches on TV, on YouTube, which I have, I wouldn't have this information. So that's why I'm ceremonial witchcraft, because I have a big witchcraft element, and I do a lot of different things that are not part of the ceremonial magic curriculum. However, the curriculum helps me advance and go up and learn the things and do the transformation without just getting good and having my ego and then wondering why things don't work anymore and not knowing what I did wrong. I have this curriculum to bounce back to. But anyway, so that taking the reins and not the ride thing, well, this part helps along with that, because, cause and effect, right? You were, Neophyte, something happens. Well, you try to use magic to change the effect of that. You try to change the effect, right? Cause, you had a bill, you forgot to pay, whatever, you got into magic, you think you can get that money, or you think you can get that bill to just be denied, or you can banish that bill somehow or whatever, and maybe it'll work, maybe it won't work. Point is, you're still at the whims of cause. Cause is still happening to you. You are still dealing with all your karma, all these things you've done, right? And that's why there's a certain amount of time so that you stop doing these bad things. You take back your mind and you stop creating karma. So this is part of that. But once you stop creating karma, well, it's easier for your magic to flow and for you to create things when you do things like the greater ritual of the hexagram, or the lesser, or the banishing of the hexagram. I'm pretty sure it's the greater ritual of the hexagram. But anyways, this helps, right? Because not only you don't have any karma anymore, you're not at the will of cause and effect. Well, now you can create the cause, and you have all the planetary energies that you can still use. You can still use to manifest, but you decrease their energies. So if it's not a specific, something is not in line with this or that, or there's a heavy fucking this or that, or you're having a bad transit, well, it's not going to bug you so much. This is one of these things that you can continuously do to reduce that, and it keeps you younger. Why does it keep you younger? Sorry about that. My daughter wanted me to open up a a sucker. Why does it keep you younger? Well, the planetary energies. Saturn is Kronos. He is the god of time. He is Zeus's dad. Zeus would be Jupiter. If you're going by like Greek mythology, you know what I mean. I'm just using that as examples. Jupiter and Saturn, but Jupiter is the benevolent king, give you more and more and more, but he can't give you more time. But by doing this ritual, that is what it accomplishes, because it reduces the effect of Saturn. Saturn is the Grim Reaper, God that comes and takes your soul. He is the Reaper. He is Father Time, who, you have limitations. You don't care what kind of magic you do, or what kind of new age you are, or how many fucking bloodlines of witches you come from. You're going to die. Now, you can reduce that. You can learn all the stuff I've learned, but you can be as healthy as a horse. But on your fucking in the morgue, on that fucking slab in that fucking body bag, they're going to say, wow, this is one healthy fucking 40, 30, 80-year-old. It's not going to matter because Saturn's going to take you out if you don't do things right along him. Now, you can eat right, you can breathe right, you can watch TV right, you can drink the right water, you can do all the physical activity you want. And all that's going to help 100%. But you also have to appease Saturn or Saturn equivalent in your line of spirituality, okay? Don't think that just because I say Saturn, it means that you have to start worshiping Saturn if you have a different group of deities you worship or whatever the case is. Saturn equivalent, okay? And be respectful of the old names because Saturn might not be necessarily the right name I should be using, to be honest. And, you know, I'm still looking for one I could use, but I think with our collective consciousness or, you know, Akash records or whatever you want to call it, the group of people using the same terms, I think Saturn would be the best one or the one used by more people. So, and he has more attributes than just using Kronos. Because I say Saturn, most people at the very minimum are going to know the planet. And at the very maximum, they're going to know all the mythologies and all that, but most people will know that. So it's a broader word, so that's why I use it. That's why I use the planetary words, because I think they're being taught in school, so everybody will know it from a young age. You know what I mean? So that's why it's important, because everybody who learns about Saturn is going to know specific things about Saturn, so I can use everybody's mind, you know, who knows about that. But anyways, I'm off topic. But yeah, so that's why it would, because you'd be like, well, how does this get you into to grace and reduce Saturn's effect on you? And how would that have anything to do with you looking and feeling younger? Well, now it should be obvious, right? So anyways, so that's the progression of the curriculum. And this is important to the mind progression now. So for what I told my wife today and what I've been telling her over the past little bit, hey baby, come here, grab your thing. Sorry, hurry up. All right, thank you. I'm going to have to go get my baby soon because I was waiting to see if one of the older boys are going to come home, but I got to get her by 4:30 or close to it. You're probably listening to this probably later tonight. It's probably going to be like at 11 or 12 o'clock at night when I put this on, but right now it's 4:18. But anyways, so why is this important? Well, it's obviously super important. If you haven't been reading the book, get the fucking read the book and do the shit you got to do. Listen to the book while you're doing stuff. You know, you're going to understand it better that way. Anyways. Oh, I know, I'm going to feed you, man. Relax, fuck. She needs her second helping of food. But so what I've been telling my wife is, you know, trying to get her to write. Because writing is, according to Jordan Peterson, and according to what I've been saying, it's the best way to get in touch with, whether you want to think it's your thoughts, it's your ideas, it's all the rambling going on in your head. You put it down on paper, you organize it, and it's going to become like your sword. It's going to make you smarter, better to talk, better to channel. It's going to do so many things. But not only that, if you write in the right way, it can actually have some power. So put it something into perspective. Someone who does their budget every month. Okay, this is how much money's coming in the house, and it's all these, gotta go to these bills, and this happens, and then this goes here, okay? And sometimes they have a little bit left, sometimes they have nothing left, right? And that will generally happen the way it goes. They're either going to be up if they get extra money, or they're going to be a little bit lower if they spend too much or get less money. But it's basically going to happen how it goes. So is that a result of just the way things work? They knew how much money they were going to get, and because they put it down on paper, it was easier to remember what they needed to do, or it was a better guideline to go by instead of just winging it? Or did it happen because they thought about it first, created those circumstances first, and then when those circumstances presented or happened or manifested, then it was a likely progression, right? Well, that's up to you to believe, but I think it's a little bit of what you write down, what you think about before happens, depending on how you do it, right? If you don't give much thought to it and you just have an Excel sheet with everything in there and you just fill in the blanks and that's that, well, you know, after doing it so many times over and over again, it will become like a visual affirmation and it will just keep happening over and over again, right? But what I'm trying to say is if you don't do it like that or whatever, if your budget always seems to be under and you never hit it on the mark, well, it's probably because you end up getting all worried about something or start stressing and start thinking about something else, because you can consciously think about what you want to happen, like your magic, for example, your manifestation. You can consciously think about it and put yourself in a trance and try to do it right, try to put emotion into it and all that. But that can all be undone by a real fear emotion and real anxiety and real stress of the same or opposite or something more strong. So then that can't happen. So that all plays into this. But I'm trying to get my wife to do the opposite. If you stress and you're anxious about shit happening, when you think about all those things, well, there's the chance of creating those circumstances. And not only that, you opened up, the same reason we tell people not to, whatever you want to happen, cast for it. But don't mark down how it's going to happen necessarily. And depending on what you want, you don't necessarily need to put a date because you're putting restrictions on it. So if you say you're going to get this money and it's going to be deposited in your bank account, well, then you're stopping all the other ways you can get money. Well, how many other ways can I get money? Well, you can get it through the mail. You can find money. You can get it in gold. You can get it in material items, in fucking equity, in debit, in credit, in fucking, you can get a bunch of prize dogs worth so much. There's a bunch of ways you can get money. And if you only think of you're going to get a direct deposit in your account, then you're limiting all the amount of ways money can come to you. Well, this is the same thing. Whenever you mark down your budget or you start worrying about being anxious about all these bad things are going to happen because you don't have enough money to pay all your bills, well, you are limiting all the good shit that could happen to you. And you are only allowing all the things that you think of that you're so sure that are going to happen, and you're so sure of it because you're getting anxiety. You can say, well, I'm not sure it's going to happen. I'm just stressing about it. Well, why are you stressed then? You wouldn't be stressed if it wasn't a possibility, or so you think. You wouldn't have anxiety if it wasn't something you thought was going to happen. Otherwise, you'd be stupid to be anxious about something like, if I don't think I'm going to die tomorrow, well, and I'm not going to die tomorrow. Anyways, I shouldn't even talk like that. But if something to that level, I'm not worrying about that because it's not a possibility. You know what I mean? So what I'm trying to get her to do is the opposite. Okay, if you want to write shit down or you want to think about shit, well, do the positive stuff. Do stuff you want. Write down. I kind of said this in, I think, my second last episode, that do the opposite brainstorming. And instead of all the anxious, crappy shit you don't want to happen, do the opposite. Say how you lost weight and you got a bunch of money and someone you knew who was dying got healed and you paid all your debt off and you have money in the bank, and get all that down on paper. Write that over and over and over again if you want. Feel the emotion while you do it. It'll become real. Say it in the recorder, go to sleep to it if you want. Fucking all that shit will work. But this is why I'm telling her to do that. So today I told her to do, I don't know if she's doing it. She says she's been doing it at work, and that could be just her way of saying, yeah, I did it, but I just leave it at work so I can't see it. So I told her, well, when she does the budget, because she told me, hey, everything worked out, and I told her, good job. It's all because of you doing your positive, the way you're being thinking about it, and kind of ignoring and not dwelling on this crap, not thinking that the worst is going to happen and then dwelling on that, this is why this happened. And she said, yeah, she was like, she was pretty excited about it. And then she brought something else up that had to do with financials, but she was overall in a good mood. And so then the next thing I said was, well, knowing what what you were just able to accomplish, don't worry about the thing you just said, but this next stressor in line. Instead of worrying about that, when you know what you know, if you continue to do the same thing, follow the same steps, there shouldn't be any issues. And more than that, if you want to help it out, take our income, our monthly income, and double it for the month of November and double it for the month of December. And then fill out your budget with a doubled income. Okay, this is what I told her to do. Hopefully she did it. I'm like, fill it out like that. Tell me what the numbers are. Tell me what's left over and all that, so I can do my magics with the numbers you got and all that. But do it like that instead. You don't need to write down what you're going to have to pay. You know what you're going to have to pay. You know what's in line. You know this and that. To write it down is just to just be addicted to your own negative crap. So why don't you put down something positive and see if it has an effect? And if it doesn't have an effect, well, you wrote it down and you're not going to know it's accurate and all that. It might help you put in a better mood. But point is, this is the progression. Instead of only causes happen and you use your magic to change the effects. Now you have to start changing the causes or controlling the causes. You have to start thinking of the way your life should go and take steps towards that, of course. But, because if you have a budget and it's double the budget that you actually have, well, just going to work every day and not taking the overtime and not going to buy a lottery ticket or, going to buy a bunch of random things all impulsively. Well, yeah, you're not going to reach those ends. But, if you have that double budget on there and you see what the potential is, well, the next time you go to buy something you don't really need, you might stop, or you might take that overtime, or, circumstances are going to present themselves to you because you've thought of that, because you put that into being, because you made it now a possibility, okay? Because you opened yourself up to that, okay? You're going to see that play itself out. I'm not saying the first time you put a double income down into your budget that you're going to see that money right away. I'm not saying that at all, but you're going to slowly start to see it increase. Do it every fucking month and you'll see it slowly start to increase. All right. And no joke, I believe this 100%. It's something I think we're going to try. She may try. If she doesn't try, I might try it. But I know for a fact this works because I have stuff written down in a planner for certain days, and it was just randomly written in there. But when I look back and I see when I made, because I wrote down, make my Mercury wand out of wood, and it was in July. And when I made that, it was in July. I made the cup in July, and it was also all written in the July box. But I didn't plan it out. I wrote this down around, I want to say June, after my daughter's birthday, when I was trying to figure out what I should teach to the baby during the day while I was working with her and shit like that. Trying to get her ready for going to daycare and shit. And so I wrote down those are the things I wanted to do, and I accomplished them along those dates. It's all in there in my book, so I know there's power to this. That's something I didn't even think about, I didn't even try, but it had power. And something I didn't care about, something doesn't really matter. It's easier to manifest. So start small, but work your way up. Don't start asking for 10 grand this month, but maybe get an extra increase, a quarter of your income or half of your income added to your check somehow, and you're going to see something happen. Someone's going to pay you back. It's going to be a mistake. You're going to find something. Someone's going to lend you something, or you're going to get one of those things in the mail saying, hey, you qualified for this, things will happen, but you're better off to start. This is how you progress. This is the next step in magic, instead of just, because you're going to keep creating karma even if you're guarding the gates of your mind. You're still going to create it. You're still going to have probably negative self-talk from time to time, especially if you're still in the working world around regular people. People are going to think things about you, blah, 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 blah. So this is a good way to change that. This is what you want to happen. This is putting it all down on paper, getting it out of your head so you don't have to think about it. This way, whenever those negative thoughts come up about what may or may not happen, well, you have something to say, no, I banish that thought and I accept the thought that I've written down. You've written it down, now you just accept it in your head with emotion, put on a recorder, put on a candle, just keep, and you add that with the lesser or the greater ritual of the hexagram, and you're right, and boom, you're golden. Fucking life is great. You're controlling your life. You're not at the cause and effect. You're now in control. You're now the controller. So that's basically what I wanted to talk about today. It's not a very long video today, but pretty good information I think everybody could use. So yeah, if I have more to say, I'll come back on and I'll say it. But otherwise, I think that's going to be it for today. So yeah, if you're doing magic, if you're a neophyte, keep doing your neophyte and keep manifesting things. But keep this in mind, and it's never too early to start this. Just because you're not doing the greater ritual of the hexagram yet doesn't mean you can't start writing down what you want to happen. Now, keep in mind, if you're writing down a big story, okay, then the things you focus on during your day-to-day and or during your rituals and or what your recordings are and or what your candle magic is and your sigils are, those things are where you're putting the focus. So if you have this big sheet of a bunch of things you want to happen, well, it's going to take a long time to make all those things happen. So one thing at a time is better, but still it's good to map out how you want your life to go. And if you're going to do it like that, we'll start with the most reasonable or the one you want first. Now you may want the big money first, but it might be easier, to get that car, to get that job, or to get that job, to get that car, you know what I mean? Instead of just saying, well, I want this $1 million so I can get the car and the job and the house. Well, no, get one thing at a time, So find within the story you write, pick the things out, and then, okay, so now you have a map of how your life is going to go. This is how your life is going to go. Get that in your head. Have absolute faith that what you just written down is going to happen. So now you take the first part that hasn't happened yet. You record that statement in whatever way, affirmation, grateful for it happening. You write that statement on every fucking candle. You make a sigil out of that. You put that around your house. And you work at that, and you keep doing your lesser banishings. If you're at the Zealtor, you do your greater ritual of the hexagrams, so you reduce that karma. You only think about that. You reject, banish, deny all the other shitty thoughts that come in your head. And even if it has nothing to do with it, if it's like, oh, I reject that thought about me getting sick, and I accept that thought about me getting a promotion at work. I will thee, so mote it be, harm-free. Now, Birch says not to use harm-free because you're stopping all the ways it could happen via someone getting harm, and it could just be their karma, so it's going to take longer, and he's got a point to that, so I'll leave that at your discretion. But you just don't want to see someone in your family pass. So free from harm, harm-free to my bloodline or to my relatives or whatever. I have to do with people in my home. I don't know. But anyways, that's what I'm going to leave you with today. So write down what you want to happen. Keep doing your rituals. They're so important in so many ways. It's so unbelievable. And I'm telling you right now, the more you do your lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, if you're in a neophyte, while you're trying to manifest something, the faster your manifestation comes. Now, I didn't mark this down or write this down to know manifestations without doing it 3 times a day versus the manifestations doing it 3 times a day. But I'm telling you right now that the times that I did do manifestations, when I was doing my lesser banishing, is before the ritual of the hexagram. All right, before this, it would happen faster, and because you're contacting your subconscious more that day, and you're going to sleep, and you're showing respect, and you're giving a candle, and I get naked in my rights to show that I'm not a slave, and all this shit. So it makes sense that the more you do that, the more that'll happen for you. But anyways, yeah, if you want to contact me. You got all the logistics and the numbers out there, and if not, yeah, I'll talk to you next time. Have a good one.